My husband, male 28, who I will call Jack, and I, female 27, have been together for 4 years. We have 2 young children, and I am pregnant again. I have been pregnant for what feels like most of our relationship. I got pregnant 4 months into our relationship. We got married a month before our daughter's first birthday and ended up with a honeymoon baby. After our son was born, I talked to my OB and she put me on birth control, and I have been taking it militantly. My daughter is now 3 and my son is 2. A little over a month ago, I discovered I am pregnant again, despite taking my birth control religiously. Baby unaliving is banned in my state, and the pregnancy was discovered too far along to attempt to obtain one out of state. While Jack and I were nervous, we also love being parents and decided that 3 young kids would be a challenge. But 3 was a good number for us. Then we went in for the first ultrasound and got some unexpected news. It's twins. Things have been tough financially, and while we were stressed but excited for a 3rd child, we were not expecting a 3rd and 4th child. Beyond the finances, I am the primary caretaker, and I know that twins is going to be a lot. 3 children under 5 is already a lot, but 4 children under 5 is going to be really, really difficult for me. Physically, I am tired of being pregnant. I've been pregnant or breastfeeding the majority of our relationship. It's exhausting, it feels awful, and I don't recognize my body anymore. 4 children is enough. I don't want more. I told Jack that I was done with pregnancy. I've been pregnant enough. I've been experimenting with different types of birth control for over a decade, and I still can't stop getting pregnant. Baby unaliving isn't a valid option where we live. We need something more permanent. He agreed and suggested an IUD. I told him no. If it did fail, then it could cause an ectopic pregnancy, which could unalive me, especially where we live. I've had both control fail me multiple times already, and I'm not taking the chance, so I suggested a vasectomy. He was not open to the idea and was even upset that I suggested it and told me I should get my tubes tied. I told him a tubal ligation is a much bigger surgery and I could be recovering for weeks, during which time I wouldn't be able to work or take care of our 4 young children, but he could ice his balls for a day or 2 and be done with it. He told me that not getting pregnant was ultimately my responsibility, and topped it off by saying, "That's what your body, your choice means, your body, so you choose." That's when it went from a discussion to a full-blown fight. See, when I was 19, I had another birth control failure with my boyfriend at the time, who I will call Tom. I wanted in baby unaliving. Tom did not, because he was opposed. I told him I was getting the baby unaliving since it was my body and my choice, and Tom said some horrible things to me, including threatening me. I broke up with him and got the baby unaliving. In response, Tom ended up following me one night and attacking me. I don't want to go into detail, but it was horrible, and he ended up going to prison for a number of charges related to the attack. Not only do I have a number of scars and some long-lasting physical effects, but I have PTSD as well. Jack knows about my history and diagnosis and has known from the beginning. I have a pretty prominent facial scar, so I was upfront about it early on in our dating. Jack always presented himself as very pro-choice, so I was shocked that he would say that. I got really emotional and started crying and shouting, and it turned into a full-blown fight. Eventually, I said that birth control is a 2-way street, and so far I've been the only one managing it. And he said, "And now we have 2 kids and 2 more coming. Great job." I told him he sounded like Tom, and he got super pissed. Basically said, "How dare you compare me to him?" And maybe he might want kids one day with someone who doesn't compare him to her felon ex-boyfriend. I was stunned and horrified. I said, "Well then, let's not waste any freaking time." Then packed up myself and the kids and drove to my parents' place. It's been about a week since the fight. I've spoken with Jack a few times, and he has since apologized and said he was out of line and was speaking from a place of anxiety after finding out about the twins, but also that I said things that were out of line, and it was wrong of me to insist he undergo a medical procedure. He said that can move on from the things I said and that he wants to see his children and be a family again. I told him no, that I didn't want to move on from the things he said to me. I can't just get over that, and I think we need space apart. Jack was upset by this, and while we talked, I brought up getting a separation agreement to manage custody and finances while we figure things out. He did not like this suggestion, said we didn't need to pull the courts into this. I haven't told a lot of people about what's happening, but my family and a couple close friends. My sister and best friend both think I should throw the whole man away, but my brother, who is the only other one married with kids, thinks that I'm being extreme for what sums up to a fight between two scared people who both said nasty things. My mom is trying to be supportive, but is occasionally reminding me that I don't want to be a single mother of 4 and telling me not to let my PTSD drive my decisions. While my dad is being completely unhelpful, he thinks jokes are helpful, like calling me doorknob because I can't stop getting knocked up, telling me to let the oven cool down, real knee slappers. I don't know what to do. My kids are happy to be at Grandma and Grandpa's house, but they miss their daddy. I'm 4 months pregnant and already uncomfortable as hell. I wish I could go back to being a happy little family, but I'm so hung up on the things he said in that fight. Am I destroying my family over one bad night? Am I being unreasonable for asking my husband to get a vasectomy? Edit. I've noticed a lot of people recommending condoms. I have gotten pregnant with condoms twice. Our second child and my first pregnancy were both conceived using condoms properly, correct fit, put on correctly, single use, not expired, no breaks, etc. I do not trust condoms enough to not fail a third time. I know the failure rate is supposedly small, but it's not personally small enough for me. Edit to the edit. I'm sorry, I didn't expect so many comments so fast and I can't keep up with them. By the first pregnancy, I mean the pregnancy with Tom. With Jack, I was on the patch when I got pregnant with our daughter, condoms with our son, and the pill with the twins. So far, I haven't ever suspected that Jack has tampered with our birth control and always presumed that I'm a fertile myrtle. I recognize the comments and just want people to know I'm seeing the suggestion. I'm not dismissing it, but the thought of it is deeply upsetting and has provoked a lot of anxiety. I just wanted to make it clear that if the suggestion is only based on the condoms, that the condom pregnancies were with 2 different partners. While I know I always used condoms properly with Tom, I do believe that Tom could have been fully capable of sabotaging the condoms. Now for a few important comments. When OP was asked if this started when the swinging ended, he said, 6 years of misery sound awful. I would very much hate that. Now for the post. I didn't expect so many comments and literally couldn't go through them all. It seemed like the majority of people said I was not the idiot, but I did get a lot of YTAs telling me I was trying to force him to get a medical procedure and telling me to get one instead. Besides already addressing my reasonings why I made my request in the original post, which I want you to read with real per my last email energy, I in no way am forcing him to have a medical procedure. But I am saying that I do not want to be with a partner who is not willing to be snipped. This is an issue of compatibility. The number of children you want, the methods of birth control you're willing to use, those are issues of compatibility and a reason relationships end all the time. If he doesn't want to be sterilized, that's fine, but then that means that we're not compatible anymore, since it means he wants more children and I don't. Beyond that, there were some "you're the idiot" comments and some DMs that were just nasty, calling me an unaliver and saying my body is a cemetery. Sadly enough, I expected those types of comments because I know there are a lot of Toms out in the world. First, I wanted to address a couple things that kept coming up because last post turned into thousands of comments that all said about 5 different things, so to avoid my inbox becoming another echo chamber. When asked if she was going to have a C-section anyway, she responded, "No, I'm not 100% going to have a C-section anyway. Twins are not an automatic C-section. With my birth history, there is no reason to presume that a C-section is in my future." My OB agrees and has discussed the possibility as doctors have to do, but also said that based on my past 2 birth experiences, I'm a perfect candidate for vaginal delivery. I also am not going to mince words. Tubal ligations are less effective than vasectomies with a much higher likelihood of an ectopic pregnancy. Ectopic pregnancy can unalive me. In fact, I got a PM from a woman who is a fellow fertile myrtle who had an ectopic after a tubal. I am rejecting birth control options that, if they fail, would lead to my likely death. I don't want to be pregnant again, but I also don't want to die and leave my children motherless. And in no way should anyone assume that traveling to another state to obtain an emergency baby unaliving will continue to be an option in the future. We live in scary times, and Gilead is a real possibility. The comments seem to have the vibe that people think that ligations are magically more effective than vasectomies, and vasectomies are more of a whisper of sterility than an actual sterilization method. So for those in the back, vasectomies are more effective than tubal ligations. Full stop. So I really need y'all to shut up about it. When asked about going to another state to obtain a baby unaliving, I appreciate the personal offers to help I received in DMs deeply. But no, I'm in my second trimester, which I know is still legal in some places. However, I am at a point in my pregnancy where I personally, as an individual, do not feel comfortable obtaining a baby unaliving, considering I would be even farther along by the time I could travel, which is not only finances, but logistics as well. I am 16 weeks pregnant now. These babies aren't just clusters of cells to me anymore, and I'm not going to expand on that since it's not up for debate. When asked about adoption, with love and respect to everyone who has gone through adoption in all its aspects, adoption is absolutely not for me. This is a thought process I already went through 8 years ago. And now that I'm a mother and not a scared teenager, I know it's even less for me. I personally could not go through with it and come out the other side intact. Going through a full pregnancy, having my babies, and then being separated from them would break me. When asked about leaving him and giving him full custody of the twins, no. Because going through a full pregnancy, having my babies, and then being separated from them would break me. Jesus, some of y'all. When asked about just having a sexless marriage, no. I love banging my husband, obviously lol. I don't want to be in a sexless marriage, and anyone who has been to an abstinence-only high school knows that abstinence is not the way lol. There were a lot of comments assuming I would be perfectly fine with holding intimacy from my husband and having a dead bedroom, and I wouldn't. I have an intimacy drive. I'm going to want to bang my husband. Wanting to have intimacy with your spouse is normal. When asked what she would do about birth control if she divorced and dated in the future, I'm not thinking of dating anyone else right now because I'm thinking more about saving my actual marriage instead of an imaginary relationship. And if theoretically I did, I would probably seek out a partner who was snipped or was ready to be honestly, or a woman. I'm bisexual, so there's a very good chance that my future partner wouldn't have the right parts to knock me up anyway, lol. When asked if Jack is sabotaging her birth control, I clarified my methods in the original post as per my last email, but I did want to address this because it came up a lot. I don't have reason to believe that Jack sabotaged my birth control. A number of other fertile myrtles showed up and brought up they or their family members repeated pregnancies in the face of birth control, including tubals. Accusing my husband of reproductive coercion for no reason other than I keep getting pregnant is a big leap and a weighty accusation. I am not the only fertile myrtle out there. There's a reason there's a whole term for it. When asked if her husband is a narcissist, aggressor, psychopath, and does no child care, my husband and I historically have a really healthy and loving relationship outside of this fight. In fact, this fight is the first time we've really had a fight. We've only ever had little arguments that we've been able to talk through. He's an active father. The reason that I do the majority of childcare is due to circumstance between maternity leaves, our job schedules, and the fact that I breastfed my babies. Someone also presumed I'm the breadwinner, which isn't quite true. Jack makes more than me, but we do not have deeply significant differences in our incomes. When he is home, he does his fair share of cleaning and cooking, arguably more than me at times, and parenting. That being said, the things he said in the heat of the moment were deeply concerning, and we're addressing that together. Now for a few comments. Deep Sleep Sheep Meep said, "Not the idiot, your husband is though. Your body has already been through a lot. A tubal ligation is a serious surgery, and you are right about being out of commission for a while when recovering. If he is more concerned with an imaginary future wife than he is for you, I don't think there is much hope for this marriage. We have 4 close friends who all got vasectomies. None of them witched about it like your wimp of a husband. We actually had fun vasectomy-themed parties for them. On the off chance he does end up getting a vasectomy, make sure to do the follow-up appointments. One of the vasectomy Fab 4 did not follow through and ended up with a post-vasectomy baby. Then OP replied, "Thank you. I feel like this is a lot of what has been so upsetting, has been that he's thinking about some imaginary future wife when I'm right here, his actual wife, the mother of his children. It's like he's already imagining a future without me." So to get down to the nitty-gritty of the real update, since the last time I posted, Jack and I have sat down together and had a real come-to-Jesus talk. I'm not going to go through the whole breakdown, but it basically boiled down to this. It's the vasectomy, but it's more than the vasectomy. It was wrong of me to compare him to Tom, but it was wronger of him to weaponize my trauma against me in a very malicious way. The way he intentionally used the same language my aggressor used in an effort to hurt me was not acceptable and damaged the trust between us. He agreed it was not acceptable and said that in the aftermath he was horrified and ashamed his own words, and that he, as an explanation and not an excuse, kind of snapped under the stress. Oh, and what he said about his next wife was not an indication of him not being committed to me, but was because he felt hurt and wanted to hurt me back. He has apologized numerous times and seems to feel genuinely bad about it. But as for the separation, I am still going forward with it. I need space and time, and I need to take that before the babies come. I am still staying with my parents, who, for the record, are not sick of me or the kids. We're a tight-knit family. I only moved out when I moved in with Jack, and my sister moved out about a year ago, so they have been empty nesting. And my mom doesn't like that we live too far, an hour away. What I have realized with space and time is how deeply triggering it was, in a way that I cannot explain to those without PTSD from DV. Those who know will know. It's deeply unsettled me, and I'm having a hard time getting over it, so to speak. There is now a lot of fear of my husband that was never there before, and it's going to take a lot to repair that trust and sense of safety. I cannot make a decision while I'm in this space, and I am addressing this with my personal therapist. Overall, I told him that if he wanted to stay married to me, I needed 2 things from him: marriage counseling and a vasectomy. And even then, I still cannot guarantee him anything. He understands, but I do not know what will happen with the vasectomy right now. We focused more on talking about the fight, but he is very aware that it's now a deal breaker. And we have a marriage counseling appointment set up for next week. I'm hoping that counseling will bring some clarity to the situation. And in the meantime, for the next couple months, I'm focusing on giving my kids lots of cuddles and preparing myself for 2 new babies to come into my world, with or without Jack. Now for a few important comments. I've been through a trial to convict my ex-boyfriend of trying to unalive me because of a baby unaliving in a deep red, deeply religious area. I've definitely heard worse things, and I typically have pretty thick skin. That being said, I am pregnant and pretty emotional, so it's not the best experience. That being said, I do appreciate the level-headed comments when I see them through the sea of comments, kind of saying the same stuff over and over. I'm not reading a lot of them if what I can see in the comment notification starts off nasty, so a lot of it is just inbox white noise. My favorites are the ones that start off with, "I'm not gonna read that but," and I just think, lol, same. Like you don't want to read my post, but expect me to read your comment that was made without even reading the situation? Lol, nope. And there are a lot of people conflating providing someone with a hard choice with forcing someone into a medical procedure. And it just makes wading through for the actually helpful comments more tiring. Thank you, though. I very much appreciate the kindness. Sorry, I've gotten so much of the same nonsense. I guess I needed a little vent, lol. I want to be honest with him about where I am emotionally because I want him to make an informed decision. While the vasectomy is a deal breaker, it's really my secondary concern. My primary concern is the way he acted during the fight and his intention exploitation of my trauma because he was mad and scared. I think that telling him, get the snip to stay with me, and then deciding to leave anyway because there are deeper issues or I don't feel safe anymore would be cruel. He deserves to have the full picture before he makes a choice, doesn't he? If he doesn't want the vasectomy, that's his choice. It's not what I want, but it is what it is. If he wants to call it quits at 4 kids, then it is what it is. And if he secretly wants to be the next Nick Cannon, then it is what it is. He should be free to do that. That is part of why I don't know where he is on the vasectomy right now. And we didn't really discuss it much when we talked. I'm focusing on discussing the bigger issue for me, which is trust and safety within the relationship. The only way for him to make an informed decision about whether or not he get a vasectomy is for him to have all the information about the situation. If that makes him want a vasectomy less, then it is what it is. It's not about making him want to have a vasectomy. It's about being on the same page. Now for the 3-month update. I kind of haven't wanted to update because I know a lot of people felt a lot of different ways about the original posts. I have still been consistently receiving comments since I posted last, so I figured it was worth updating because a lot has happened. Since the last time I posted, we went through with the separation and kept 50-50 custody, though we did only share this with those closest to us. We also started going to couples counseling weekly, and TLDR, we both had a lot of stuff to work through, and we both put in a lot of work. I'm not going to share what his reasoning for his aversion to the vasectomy was, but he did share with me, and he did have some beliefs about masculinity that he had to deconstruct. We did a lot of work at the heart of the issue, which was his weaponization of my trauma in a fight. That was always the biggest issue, far more than the vasectomy. We did a lot of work around that, since it did open up the doors to a lot of deeper stuff with us both. We stuck to the agreed-upon separation time, since we both wanted to resolve this one way or another before the twins are born. While we did the work with our therapist, we did not talk about the vasectomy during this time outside of structured discussions in therapy. And our therapist believed with our situation it was best that Jack's choice to snip or not be a non-discussion so we could focus on the real deeper issues at hand. It did help focus discussions to be more productive, but it did mean I've been in the dark about it. There's been a lot of soul-searching, a lot of come-to-Jesus discussions between Jack and me. There were things he said in therapy and in conversation that lead me to believe he is deeply regretful of his words, understands the gravity of them, and is doing the work to never do it again. He hasn't once said anything that reinforced those ideas or implied he truly believed what he said. I've been open to and listening to his words, while also being aware it could be lip service. The agreed-upon separation is at an end. We had our final therapy appointment within the separation period recently, and some things have happened during this time with our families that have provided a lot of complications and some clarity. Jack went through with the vasectomy. He iced his balls for a day and was fine. No, I did not force him. It was his own decision. And no, I did not end the separation immediately after he did. And yes, he knew that was the case when he did. We still did the work. He is not castrated. He is not emasculated. He is the same man he was before, just shooting blanks. And he did not develop some rare disorder from it. He actually got snipped shortly after we started therapy and couldn't tell me because of the vasectomy talk moratorium. He did not get snipped to have intimacy access to me. He didn't, and I'm still freaking pregnant anyway. He did not do it to save the marriage, and we still did the work and are doing the work. We are going to continue therapy together and in the process of reunifying. So we are still together. My husband is snipped, but now we have some really difficult decisions to make about the viability of living in this state and raising our children here. Following reunification, our next big hurdle to jump is what to do about living here. This is something Jack and I have been talking about in passing for a couple years and again recently. This is not something I've blindsided him with. This is not brand new information. This is actually a conversation that's been going on for years between us and just happens to be coming to a head around now, since most of the reason we've stayed has been to stay close to my family. His family is more spread out and less close. Both my sister and my brother, plus his wife, have recently experienced things that lead them to no longer feel safe here. And my sister at least has already decided to move after what's happened to her and how the laws here made it so much more traumatizing for her. We have one daughter, and in the next few months we may have up to 3 daughters. How can we justify raising them here, knowing how the state would treat them? So that's where we are. We are still together. We are still actively working on our relationship and going to therapy, couples and individual for both. He got the vasectomy and is doing great. Our next hurdle is figuring out if we want to continue living in the state that has proven to be dangerously hostile. Don't know what else to say. That's pretty much it right now. I know that the initial issue has overall been resolved, but now somehow there's still a lot of uncertainty about the future. But I guess that's life. Anyway, that's all, y'all. Now for a few comments. It's really heartening to see that in the middle of a challenging situation, you and your husband have found a way to address your issues collaboratively. It's crucial to remember that healing is a process, and it's never linear. Your determination to prioritize the safety and well-being of your family offers a lot of hope. Many people can find themselves stuck in a cycle of blame and frustration, but you've both chosen to step towards resolution instead. I wish you all the best in finding a new home where your family will thrive and continue this positive trajectory. Keep focusing on open communication and mutual support. These are key ingredients for a strong and resilient partnership. Congratulations to you both for doing the hard work. Even if you guys don't make it, you will both know you tried your hardest. Oh, and check out jobs in Minnesota. We have your back. Then OP replied, Minnesota is on my sister's short list. If Jack agrees, I would like to follow wherever she goes, so we have family nearby, and I hope my brother agrees to do the same. I hope our weak southern bodies would be able to survive the winters. Another commenter said, it's good to hear you both are making progress and working on your relationship, and it's completely valid to consider moving if it's in the best interest of your family. Am I the idiot for delaying my wedding until my fiancé sets boundaries with her toxic family? I've been dating my fiancé for 4 years and have been engaged for 7 months. We are trying to plan out a wedding for roughly fall next year. Her childhood was terrible and hurtful, to put it mildly. Her parents were raging narcissists, and she was the scapegoat for her 2 brothers. She was abused and thrown out the moment she turned 18. She was, however, a great student and hard worker, so with some scholarships and a part-time job, she has a great career and is pretty independent. The problem is that she still had contact with her family. None of them have changed. Well, actually, something has changed. They have become more financially dependent on her. They enjoy slowly creeping back into her life and emotionally blackmailing her for support or whatever she can do. They're not pleasant about it either. They're rude, smug, and generally enjoy being a nuisance, and my fiancé can't say no. No matter the horrible things they say or how they outright try and intimidate her openly. I've always known her family history and have always supported her through the issues with them, but in the last year or so, they've become far more brazen and asinine. They come over to our house more often. They make messes all around the place. Her mother acts like she's the freaking stepmother from Cinderella. Her dad drinks all my freaking beer and empties out half the fridge. Her brothers stop by occasionally to act as mouthpieces for their parents. They practically trash the place and leave us to clean the mess. And where is my fiancé in all this? Quietly standing in the corner, practically shaking. I'm no fool here. There is legitimate trauma. There's her need to feel loved by them and her hoping they will appreciate her. Before one of you noble commenters states the obvious, she's been in therapy for this for years. I've tried to establish boundaries. For nearly 2 years, I've been trying to push these ass clowns away. But this is her house she purchased, and no matter of contributions, financial or otherwise, will she let me have a say on who comes into her house. She's been beaten down mentally and emotionally by them for so long. She has told me recently that she wants to earn their approval, how they were right about her, how she needs to be better for them. I've had too many emotional conversations with tears and begging to count, hoping she will take the steps to get better. But she's an adult. I can't force her to do anything. I love her, but I can't help but feel so resentful of what she's doing. It's agonizing watching someone you love, someone who you know deserves so much better, openly destroy themselves for people like her family. It's been painful watching her cry herself to sleep one too many night because of them. I've tried too many times to help her get out of their clutches, but I have to think of the future. What happens when we have kids? What happens when she is postpartum and invites them over? What happens if there is a medical emergency for either of us? What if our finances get tight and they still demand money? This is the in-law family from hell, and I won't be able to avoid them. Tomorrow, I'm going to tell her how I want to delay the wedding until firm boundaries are established. If she resents, I walk. I can't do it anymore. I refuse to watch a slow death like this any further. Talked to her, and it went about as well as one could possibly expect. Currently getting myself set up in a hotel for a few days and working on possible long-term plans for moving out. Still a lot going on right now, but maybe sometime next week I'll be able to put everything together into one update. The night after I made the first post, I had decided that I was going to have a heart-to-heart with my fiancé about her family. However, she came back from work the next day early, and I already was off that day, so I initiated the talk a little sooner than I planned. Essentially, I told her how this arrangement was not sustainable. I did not feel comfortable marrying her due to how much involvement in her life her family has, and I certainly did not feel comfortable bringing a child into this world with them. I didn't want to tell her cold turkey no contact with them, but strict limitations to start with on them coming over and what they can do around the house. I also requested couples therapy before marriage. She wasn't happy. She was just staring angrily at me while I spoke, then started yelling at me when I finished. She told me I don't understand their dynamic, and it worked for her. I told her that they're hurtful users who will bleed her dry, and I have never seen them show any decency to her. She told me she just had to work harder for them to appreciate her. I basically yelled at her that a parent's child shouldn't have to beg and plead and work for them to be loved. I finally told her that she sets limits with them, or I walk. She was livid, and since I was living in her house, I was kicked out. So the past few days, I have been staying in a hotel and have had my stuff taken out and put into storage. And frankly, it's been great. I am going to stay with family for a few weeks around mid-July, and after that, I'm going to go house searching for myself. I have spent the last couple days relaxing, catching up on movies and video games I haven't had time for, and could go back from work to a quiet room without her family tearing the place apart. Yesterday, however, things came to a head. We have basically been no contact since she booted me out. But I know every Saturday her family loves to spend the afternoon over, and she uses me as a shield from their abuse. However, in a very petty move, I simply kept my phone muted all day and played Disco Elysium. I knew she would call back for help with her family, and at this point, pure resentment was kicking in for her, and I wanted nothing to do with her issues. By the end of the night, she had sent me over a dozen texts and finally 2 frantic voicemails begging me to come home. I decided to come over to check up on her. Long story short, she was sobbing in the living room, and when I came to talk to her, she was practically crushing my back, hugging me and sobbing. I gave her time to cool off and asked what happened. Long story short, her parents and brother came by to gift money from her and say horrible shoot to her. She wanted to have me come over to help, but I was ignoring her. And when she tried to have one of her friends help out, and everyone basically said, "Fuck that," it all started clicking in for her. She kicked her family out, but not before they said some utterly vile shoot to her I won't repeat. She kept apologizing to me and told me over and over to come home. I told her plainly that I had started to build up heavy resentment towards her for some time, And while I loved her and understand it was trauma and not her being outright hurtful, there was major issues that would need to be addressed if we were to move forward. 1. She sells the house and moves. We make roughly the same amount of money and we will buy a house together. I am a grown butt man and I will not live in a house I have no equal agency over. 2. Her family will never step a foot in it. They will never come over. They will be treated by me in a very threatening manner if they try and come in. 3. She gets a new therapist and we start premarital counseling. We will go LC with her family right now, but make no mistake, we are working towards full no contact on her end. I told her I love her. We have been together for a while now and have beautiful memories together, and I know she is suffering from abuse, but these are non-negotiable, and if she has a problem with any of them, then we have to go our separate ways. She told me she's realized for a while now that her family is toxic and unhealthy. She wants to make changes. She has accepted, but some of these will take a while to see through. For now, I am going to stay in the hotel until I head back to stay with my family. She is welcome to come over, but I have made it clear her house is not somewhere I want to go. Her and I are both off tomorrow, so we will spend the day here and maybe go out. This is obviously not over yet, but I might not post anything else until mid-August or so. Despite all intentions of not updating until much later with the hopes of an improved relationship with my fiancé and her establishing boundaries with her toxic family, we are now broken up. Essentially what happened was after last weekend, where I left her for the time to deal with them herself, she seemed to finally grasp the situation and was open to changes, including boundaries and a possible move. We spent Monday and Tuesday hanging out in my hotel that I was staying in until I went back to my family for a couple of weeks. The other night, she was being very vague with texting when she originally was supposed to come over. She came much later than expected, and I knew something was up. She basically unloaded on me how I was hurtful, controlling, overly demanding, and unsupportive. It took me 5 seconds to figure out she was repeating verbatim some sort of rehearsed speech from her parents. And to be honest, I was so agitated at this point, despite making a huge gamble on her, I decided to be a prick about it. I asked her if her family told her to say this. She said they suggested it to her, but she came up with it herself. I asked her to explain in detail what I did. She said I was living like a parasite off her. I reminded her that I'm paying 50-50 for her mortgage, 50-50 for utilities and groceries as well. I have my own car I pay for, a job that makes just about as much as hers, unlike her leech parents who demand payments on the weekly and raid the kitchen on the weekends. I told her to try again with something better. She looked flustered and said I was trying to isolate her. I kind of smirked like a jackass and told her that I have always supported her many friendships that she has destroyed on her own because no one wants to deal with her family or be used as a shield like me. I was practically demanding to know at this point why she is so hell-bent on destroying her life for these people. She just kind of shouted that I don't understand her family and she's just trying to earn their love back, and was basically ranting at that point. It's just so staggering to see up close. I have ventured into a few subreddits to get perspectives, and if you have any familiarity with them, you'll see how people who are victims of abuse by their own family can be so utterly broken by it that it'll wreck their brain to where they truly believe they are the problem and they deserve the abuse. Well, that's how she was. She was utterly broken and didn't want help. She didn't want to get better, she just wanted to get worse. It hit me like a truck, honestly. The realization. I really did feel like a fool for trying, even if it was what I was supposed to do in the first place. She was practically berserk at this point, and I was just mentally exhausted and needed her to leave before someone called the police. She finally left, but I had a few concerned neighbors check on me. Some of her friends are aware as they have messaged me checking on the situation. I told them the truth and that I just needed to be alone to think about what to do next right now. They have revealed that she has given them similar rants after they expressed concern for her. One had even heard that she may be possibly at risk of losing her job. She is definitely having some sort of mental break. From my understanding, she is now completely isolated. She is actually sprinting into a horrible, lonely life right now. There's nothing I can do for her at this point, and as selfish as it sounds, I'm just glad it's going to be behind me. Things have kind of wrapped up, but there were some loose ends. I completely forgot to change my mailing address, which I should have done ASAP, so a couple of important things got sent to her house. I had to go pick them up, plus a final couple of items I want for my move that I left there and decided I wanted to actually take. She was being difficult and not responding to messages in regards to them, so I had to go get them from her myself. I brought a mutual friend just in case. Thankfully, she was at least cooperative in letting me get my stuff, and it wasn't much of an issue. Everything else was, though. She had a lot of nasty things to say, telling me she was already sleeping around, telling me how happy she was now that I was gone, telling me she's finally free of me, how she's going to be so much better off without me. A lot of generic insults and horrible things you would commonly expect from a nasty breakup. And you know what? It was so obvious it was a rehearsed script from her family, and you could easily see how miserable she was. She looked like a mess, like she hasn't slept in days. The house was a mess. She wasn't even yelling it. She sounded so exhausted and broken when she said it. She didn't even smile when she said anything, just a face contorted in hate and anger. She was not the woman I knew anymore. That person was gone. When I was getting ready to leave, she was still going on. I was fed up and told her something along the lines of, "Congratulations, your friends are gone. Your human shields are gone. Your engagement is over. Your support is gone. Anyone who ever treated you like a decent human being is gone. It's just you and your family. I hope you're happy while they bleed you dry." It probably didn't go like that, but something like it. She just stood there, literally just stood there and looked at me with indifference and walked away as I walked out the door. As we were leaving, the mutual friend, Tiffany, asked if I was okay. I reassured her I was, and I'm just trying to get myself set up to go home next week. She also confirmed that she hears my ex did lose her job for not showing up for several days and basically ghosting them. They're going to try an intervention next week and asked if I could participate, but I'm not delaying my travel because, frankly, I just want a clean break. I know for a fact that if I stay involved in only going to be witnessing the slow descent to either a full break or a unalived, I just can't do that. Despite all this, I'm actually excited for the future, and I have realized that I ignored way too many red flags at the beginning. Even with everything that happened, I know I'll be doing good and I'm going to be all right. I expect this to be my final update. I'm still in town until Sunday afternoon, so something could happen while I'm still here, but if anything does, it won't be exciting. I'm currently back in my home state with family, refamiliarizing myself with the area. I have 100% decided to stay here permanently and am starting the long process of looking up homes in the area. I've been doing great and hanging out with friends and family. A couple mutuals with my ex-fiancé have let me know what's been happening, and things finally seem to be getting better. The plan was for an intervention Sunday, but Saturday night, after her family visited again, she called friends in an absolute manic state, and it finally seems to have clicked how bad she screwed up. It was a full-blown panic attack and meltdown, which ended with her in the ER. Needless to say, she finally admits how miserable she is and that she's messed up her life badly. Apparently, she tried calling me, but I had her blocked. She still has her job, and that info about her losing it was wrong. But she's hanging by a thread there, and her boss has basically ordered her to use her PTO for a few weeks to get her head on straight. She's a valuable asset there, and they are trying to make sure she can fix herself before they pull the plug on her. Her friend group is extremely close. My ex was someone who was a very helpful and supportive friend, so it makes sense her group is going this far in trying to help her. It is, however, an unspoken agreement that if she goes back to how she was again, they are all prepared to let her sink on her own. She's doing as well as can be expected. Her family has continued to harass her with calls and messages. They've tried showing up to her house, but have been firmly redirected by friends and even neighbors. I hope she truly understands the kind of support system she has. As trashy family disputes usually go, her parents and brothers have taken it to Facebook, which, from what I heard, has been in my ex's favor, as it has exposed their behavior to many more people and seems to have shut them up for a little. Finally, she had one of the mutuals pass a message to me. Essentially, it was her admitting all the horrible things she said to me were not true and were done by her family, as I knew they were. She apologized for how things ended and hoped we could one day reconnect. Sadly, I had to relay that we need to stay separated for good, and she just needs to focus on her healing. But I told her I still care for her and I wish her the best, but this needs to be our goodbye. The message seems to have been passed along, and her friends are helping her process that. She's got a long way to go, but I hope she can find her peace as I am finding mine. Now for a few important comments. When asked about the ex's parents' thoughts, OP said, "They just tried to play the 'our daughter is ungrateful and being cruel' card to close friends and some family, only for a shitstorm of people calling them out for their behavior. Take this with a grain of salt, as it's unconfirmed from what someone told me. In retaliation for that, people starting directly calling one of the brothers' employers and leaving scathing reviews on their Facebook page, airing all the dirty laundry. And it isn't going well for him." But again, unconfirmed. Another commenter said, "As trashy family disputes usually go, her parents and brothers have taken it to Facebook. No lies detected. I'm proud of the OP for remaining as free as possible from that shit show. It's far better for this woman if she realizes that her choices have real consequences, and that if she doesn't want future consequences like that, then she needs to do real and heavy work on herself." Then another commenter added, "Oof, glad to hear your ex-fiancé is hopefully getting the help she desperately needs. And my friend, I am glad you are protecting yourself from this cluster. Stay strong and best wishes on your new journey back home." Now for the 1-month update. I didn't actually think I'd post another entry to this mess. I've been doing very well since I came back home. All of my stuff made it back here, and I am currently set up with my family while I house hunt. I've gotten my job set up here and have been back to work the past week. I occasionally come here to comment and shitpost, but that's it. Unfortunately, despite all intentions by my ex's friends, the situation is now truly over in the worst way, and the friend group has been shattered as a result. My ex has taken her own life. Pretty much everything I am going to relay I learned last night. Since I left, her friends have been helping her get back on her feet, pushing her to better therapy, helping establish boundaries with her family, getting her out of the house. They truly went above and beyond. However, Tiffany, the friend who was there helping me the last time I talked face-to-face to my ex, began to grow suspicious of my ex when she saw her becoming touchy-feely with her boyfriend Daniel when they hung out at her house. I don't know too many details about when push became shove, but she eventually got a hold of her boyfriend's phone when he was asleep and found very intimacy messages between them. And as a giant shocker to me, these dated over 5 months back. Tiffany obviously lost her shoot and told everyone. What no one could have expected was the shit show that was to follow. Daniel, Tiffany's now ex, in a massive fuck it move, threw another member of the friend group, Joseph, under the bus, claiming he helped cover for him. Joseph's girlfriend, in return, dumped him and kicked him out of her house. A friend group consisting of around 9 people, including my ex, practically exploded, and the only people who still talk to each other are Tiffany and Joseph's ex. Mind you, as I was being told this, I was informed that although I have been away for around a month, all of this happened literally in the first week. Immediately, my ex lost her entire support system and was essentially fully blamed for everything. This only exacerbated her already declining mental state. Of course, everyone wanted to know why she did all that to one of her best friends. She just gave the usual spiel about how they had grown close. He was a good support system for her, and of course, she has told her family about him, and they approved of him instead of me. The night I left her house to my hotel, she then invited him over. Apparently, her endgame was to leave me for him eventually. However, he wouldn't leave Tiffany for her, and he utterly loathed hearing about her family, so he obviously wouldn't go for anything more than a secret affair. Truly, I imagined I would be far angrier than I was, but I had already begun to move on. I had done a full health exam recently at my new doctor's office and had gotten a clean bill of health recently, including no STDs, so I didn't have to worry about that. And frankly, it just wouldn't do any good at this point. I was told that I wasn't informed because, honestly, no one knew how to drop that on me so late in, which I understand. So yeah, my ex was completely ostracized, even by Tiffany's ex, who just outright disappeared. She was blocked and left to deal with her problems herself. Tiffany only knew that she finally lost her job for good and basically spent all her free time having her family over. They had finally won in a way. 2 nights ago, it was discovered that she had taken her life in her home. Her family found her. One of the members of the old friend group who lived nearby showed up at her house when medical was showing up. Her family was there and seemed like they couldn't care less. Tiffany called me last night just to give a heads up. There were several notes, and she as delicately as possible asked me if I would want mine just for closure. I really don't know what to do about that. I am feeling so much freaking mental whiplash right now. I truly never knew this woman at all. I've had to accept over the past month I've been home that she was hurtful in the relationship with how she put me through shoot with her family. And now it seems like it was a way to try and drive me off so she could be in the arms of another man that her family seemed to like. Which frankly makes me even more confused because what did he have that I didn't? Did they just enjoy freaking with her life? Was anything with her real? Was anything with the group of people I spent years of my life with even real? Being back here is the best decision I've ever made, and now I have full confirmation of that. I can start some therapy to process this mess, spend time with an actually trustworthy group of people face-to-face instead of online, and I have family close by for support. But yeah, this is going to frick with me for a long time. Now for a few important comments. One commenter said, "Do not read the letter. It will do you no good. Give it to the therapist to read it, and for them to then reseal it in another envelope. Have them decide, based on your mental health, when or even if you ever should read it, or if it should remain unread by you and burned." Then OP replied, "I'm not going to bother with the letter or anything else regarding them. Time to move on with my life." Am I the idiot for calling my dad out for suggesting I use paper towels for my period? For context, I, female 15, and my dad, male 35, have had a really good relationship for the past year or two. We've always been close, but I've had a rocky relationship with my mom, so he's been my main support system. Currently, I'm on holiday with my grandparents, younger sister, my dad and his girlfriend, 4 adults, 2 kids, including me, and I got my period. I have a really heavy flow, but I'm not yet comfortable with using tampons/cups, so I stick to pads. We were meant to be going to a water park, but with me getting my period, I obviously couldn't go. Initially, my dad was fine with this, and even suggested me and him doing go-karting together. Just us and my younger sister, his girlfriend, and my grandparents could just go to the water park. Then a few hours later, I asked my dad about the go-karting, and he said that my younger sister and his girlfriend wanted him to go to the water park, so he's going there. I felt that this was unfair, considering they could just go by themselves. Otherwise, I'll be stuck in the caravan all day when it's our last day on holiday. He then said that other people swim on their periods without tampons, and his female friends, who I suspect is his GF, with far more experience since they are older, use paper towels, and I could go swimming if I wanted to. I'm just choosing not to. I got upset by this because I was looking forward to doing something with him, and I also felt like he was just making out that I'm just trying to be difficult. I said the paper towel is a stupid idea, and to that, he shouted at me not to call him stupid and slammed the door in my face. I've been stuck in the caravan with my nan the whole day. Me and my dad aren't talking because he said he doesn't want any more arguing. My nan, mom, and friends all agree that the paper towel was a stupid thing to say, but I suspect his girlfriend was the one who suggested it in the first place. So am I the jerk? Edit. A lot of people are saying I'm making the holiday about me and shouldn't expect my dad to cancel. I didn't expect my dad to do anything. He offered to take me go-karting, saying he would prefer to do that over the water park anyway. If he didn't want to, that's totally fine. But if that was the case, he shouldn't have waited to tell me that until 11 p.m., 12 a.m. that night, by which point it was far too late for me to arrange anything else. Also, the only reason he chose to do the water park is because his girlfriend and my sister said they wouldn't go without him, despite the fact they still could have gone just them two. Now for a few important comments. Commenter: no, it wouldn't work. But why can't you hang at the pool while they swim? Read a book or draw or something. It's because the initial plan was my little sister and his girlfriend go to the pool and me and my dad do something else. But now he thinks I'm just being difficult and I can swim and I'm just choosing not to. Not the idiot. The one thing I was going to say was, did you call him stupid or the idea? Sounds like you called the idea stupid, which it is, and he took it as calling him stupid. The truth is, men are stupid about periods. I dated a guy one time who, no joke, in his late 20s didn't know it had its own hole. He thought women only had 2 spots down there, not 3. But I digress. You will encounter much stupidity from many men about this through your life. But this time, since he's your dad, you gotta be respectful enough to remember to call his ideas stupid instead of him. Ope, I called the idea stupid, but he misheard me and slammed the door in my face before I could even correct him. I said, it's stupid because, and then he shouted at me and slammed the door in my face before I even got a chance to finish my sentence. I didn't even know about the menstruation swimwear until I posted this, so I'll definitely look into that. Thank you. The reason why I'm hesitant to tampons, cups, etc. is because I had a bike accident when I was younger, which caused physical trauma down there, which has made me hesitant. But thank you. I got into a bike accident when I was younger, so I have physical trauma down there, which my dad is aware of because he was the one that took me to A&E for it. GF knew I was on my period and was fully aware of the conversation. Honestly, I think it was her that suggested the paper towel, because my dad was fine, and then a few hours later, he suggests the paper towel. Now for the 2-day update. Update. I'm back at my mom's, but I received this message from my dad, and I would also like to have a chat with you about our conversation last night. I've taken some advice, and there's things I didn't realize, and for that I am truly sorry. I can, however, help, but need your acceptance. All I ever want is for you to be happy and advised correctly. Obviously, I can't help with that, and I'm not used to not being able to help you. I feel terrible that I could have asked you to do something that I didn't understand, so reached out to better understand it. It's now clear to me that using tampons is not straightforward and actually isn't the right method for someone that isn't sexually active. Obviously, I had no clue about this. Hopefully, we can chat tomorrow and I can talk you through my idea/plan moving forward. Now for some comments. Commenter: tampons aren't meant for people who aren't sexually active? Good God, I need this man to read a book. Ope, that information is very much correct. He found it out from a family friend that is a senior nurse who specializes in women's health. My dad spoke to a senior nurse. Of course you can use tampons if you're not sexually active. But what she's saying is, for the majority who aren't sexually active, it isn't necessarily the best option.